Welcome back to Wonder Goal, soccer betting podcast from the Action Network. BJ Cunningham is in mourning. Michael Leboff is celebrating the Islanders' return to the playoffs, and I'm wondering how I let myself get tricked into betting on Arsenal in the Champions League. Welcome back. It's Anthony DeBundo, as always, joined by BJ Cunningham. Leboff is out tonight, like we said. He is swamped with NHL playoff stuff, so we'll see him back maybe Sunday, if not next week. But BJ and I are here. And BJ, I thought I would save it for the Arsenal conversation, but it's on my mind right now. We all watched today. Bayern goes up 1-0 in the 63rd minute. 2 shots for Arsenal in the last 30 minutes of the match.
Yeah.
They go out with a whimper. You and former soccer editor Matt Treby are already planning for the summer transfer window.
Yeah.
It's kind of the 30-second spin on Arsenal's, I don't want to say collapse, but Arsenal's disappointment.
I think disappointment's the right word. Arsenal just has some of these performances from time to time, and it was kind of shocking that it came against a team like Bayern. We kind of talked about a team like Porto can do what they did to a lot of teams, and obviously they exposed some flaws with Arsenal. And the reality is like you said, once Bayern went up 1-0, that felt, at least in my gut, like it. I wasn't optimistic that Arsenal was going to go get a second. And you can kind of see that from the jump. Arsenal really only created one really good chance. The cross to Martinelli that he put right at Neuer. But outside of that, they didn't really do much. But in the other sense, like outside of the Kimmich chance, I know Kane hit the post in kind of a low quality effort, but Bayern didn't really do a whole lot in the entire match. But that's kind of, it doesn't matter. If you can't really create chances, then, if one goal really makes a difference, then that sucks. But yeah, now we turn our attention to the title race. Hopefully we can win out, put some pressure on Man City, who also went out today. So no England teams left. Unfortunately, looks like that 5th spot's going to Germany. Yeah. So that means the race for top 4 is just heated up quite a bit.
Yeah, it should be more fun now. Villa, Tottenham fighting for 4th. Yeah, I didn't expect Arsenal to ever score. In fact, I thought about a live under 1.5, but then I was actually more worried about Bayern just getting one on the break when Arsenal got desperate, so I didn't bet it. But I think, Arsenal were the better team compared to Bayern. But Bayern have the more individual moments, high-end talent, I think. And Saka had a very quiet second leg and kind of just not having a striker. Like, I think you kind of saw the limitations, and it's something that we've been concerned about. I've been concerned about over the course of the league match, and it was always a thing that could have reared its ugly head in a tournament setting where if you fall behind, do you have the firepower to play back into this match? And was not the case, was not to be. So tough for Arsenal, but like you said, there's a league title race to go. Updated title odds in the league. Man City minus 225, Arsenal plus 450, Liverpool plus 650 from our sponsors at Bet365. Before we get into the league, though, we've got a really fun FA Cup semifinal this weekend, and I'm not talking about City and Chelsea, but we are going to start with City and Chelsea. That is the headliner, the de facto final. Some are calling it because of the form that Man United's in. We have seen Chelsea and City play twice this year, 2 just incredible draws, a 4-4 at Stamford Bridge back in November, and then a 1-1 at the Etihad in February. Both games had over 4 expected goals created, so it kind of leads to this total only being 3. Man City minus 180 moneyline favorite, laying about a goal. BJ, we've been kind of back out on Chelsea, in on Chelsea, out on Chelsea. They put 6 past Everton on Monday. Are we in? Are we out? Where are we on Chelsea this week as a dog, where they've tended to play much better against the big sides?
I'm definitely in. Let's first talk about the spot before we get into the actual tactical matchup. We have Chelsea, obviously, who has all the confidence in the world, putting 6 past Everton. We have City, who is limping into this because it came out at the end that Haaland, De Bruyne, and Akanji all has to go off. So that's a little concerning if they're maybe not fit enough for this match. Full 120 minutes for for all of Manchester City, plus penalties against Real Madrid. They were at home, but now you're coming on essentially 2 days rest because they're playing on Saturday after having to play on Wednesday. So not a great spot for Manchester City, first off. And it also boils down to what I've been saying is that Manchester City still hasn't beaten a Big Six team outside of United. And why is that? Well, you saw it on display with Real Madrid today. I know they created 3 expected goals, and I know probably they should have gone through. But they are so vulnerable in transition because of how many of their ball-stopping midfielders and defenders they have to push up on the back line to actually create that type of pressure on the opponents. It's what hurt them in the second meeting against Chelsea. It's why Chelsea went ahead, is because they were pushing Rodri and they were pushing Stones way far up, and Chelsea just kept isolating Nathan Ake on the left side. Obviously, Gvardiol was hurt for that match. He's going to be he will be back for this one. But if you look at his positioning through a lot of these big matches, is he's getting the one that's getting pushed up along the wing, and they usually drop, whether it be Diaz, Akanji, and what now would be Kyle Walker into a back 3. So exploiting that left side of the pitch is something that Chelsea can do once again. And obviously Cole Palmer is in incredible form right now. Him being able to also drop deep and build up and pull Ruben Diaz out of position time and time again is another way that Chelsea can really exploit them. And what we know about Chelsea, obviously, like we say every single time, but they're just a much better team at playing in transition without the ball than playing as a team that needs the ball and, needs to break down a low block. I know they put 6 past a mid block of Everton, but Everton also had a huge chance to go up 1-0. And if that ball goes in the back of the net, I think we're going to have a very different match. So I like Chelsea +1. I only projected City around -140, -135. I really don't think there's that big of a gap that the market is telling us between these two teams. And we saw it, with the Real Madrid line. I mean, yes, we hit it, and it's great, but like after you're watching that match, do you really think City should have been -300 to advance? Like, I don't think so. So, and I think the same could be said true for this one. So I think City's way too vulnerable in transition to be laying this big of a number. So I like Chelsea +1.
Yeah, I'm going to play over 3, -110. Just can't get anywhere near this number. I'm closer to 3-3. These two teams played in February, like we said, at the Etihad. So, maybe you increase the scoring a little bit environment because of the fact that this is a cup semifinal. But the line closed 3.5, under -115. Now I can get 3. That's a huge difference. And I, thought 3.5 was a little high back then, but there's nothing in these teams head to head that suggested that Chelsea can play any defense whatsoever on City. It was Haaland missing a couple big chances. It was Doku walking into the penalty area repeatedly in that last match. And like we said, Chelsea, they found a ton of success in transition, and City had to kind of change how they were playing in the second half to try to strangle the game more. So I think there's more paths to success again. Of course, the longer this stays 0-0, the less each team's going to want to make errors. But even without Haaland, we've seen City be just fine in attack, even if they rotate a little bit. I think City's going to be fine, and I think they're going to score at least 2 here. So give me the over 3 at -110. Just don't really agree with the market over deflating for the cup semifinal in that one. So yeah, over 3. In the second game, I tried to find something interesting to say about Coventry City, something interesting in their play style, something interesting in their statistical profile. I'll be honest, I haven't watched a ton of Coventry City this year. I watched one match. They beat Wolves 3-2 in epic fashion. They look pretty good in that match. Haji Wright, the American World Cup hero for his consolation goal against the Dutch. 15 goals this year for them. There's nothing, like I said, they don't excel in any particular area. They're pretty average across the board, slightly above average in the championship. But now you get to play United, and the bottom has fallen out on the defense. It's no longer, the first half of the season, it was like a league average, slightly worse defense. And we said, there are some injuries, but it is actually bottomed out. And even with, certain injuries being in and out, and, now their back line is really frail with, we saw some mistakes in the Bournemouth match. They got away with some stuff in that one as well. Coventry team totals have to be the play for me here. I don't really trust their defense to hold up. They didn't look great against a Wolves team without any of their good attackers. They still gave up 2 XG in that match, that FA Cup semi. And some of their other, they beat Maidstone the round before that. They went out to Wimbledon in the Cup earlier this year. They pretty consistently giving up chances in the championship. So I think United, can have success. This is United's season, really. but Coventry is going to be live at the other end and playing on the break against this United team. So I think Coventry team totals are the way to go. BJ, I mean, this is like a weekly tradition at this point. Outside of the one time I bet on them with the team totals and the money line, I don't think we've bet United for a while now. So
this is the bet of a lifetime, Anthony, for Coventry. Every possible way: spread, money line, team total, shots. I want to tell the story of Coventry's because, like you said, yes, they're above average championship side, and their underlying metrics are okay. They're not great, but I want to tell the story of their season of how they've essentially gotten better. So they got off to a really difficult start to begin the season. First 15 matches, they only won 3 times. They lost obviously to Luton Town on penalties in the promotional playoff last year. And the ripple effect that has, unfortunately, for championship sides is pretty drastic if you don't, are not a bigger club that can withstand that type of, financial windfall. Gyökeres leaves for Sporting. Gustavo Hammer leaves for Sheffield United. 2 of their usual 3 center backs in their back 3 were on loan. They had to go back to their parent clubs. So that's a pretty catastrophic thing to lose going into a season. And they struggled out of the gates. But they also underperformed for a large stretch of that. I mean, if you look at Haji Wright's, he has scored 15 goals. That's off of close to 18 expected. Him and Ellis Sims, Everton striker, were just in a poor finishing run for basically the whole first half of the season. Then they switched to a back 4. The underlying numbers didn't really improve. In fact, they were actually about the same. They're about plus 0.4 XG differential per 90. But they got some positive regression and they started winning, and they've won 18 of the last 27 matches in the championship. And really what it boiled down to me is they're obviously a team that, since they switched to a back 4, they've tried to be a little more possession based as opposed to being a 3-5-2 direct counterattacking team. Their build-up attacks compared to their direct attacks are about even, but their direct speed is the second highest in the championship because Haji Wright and Sims have a lot of pace to get at you. Nothing's changed with United. I mean, you can just go back and just, essentially plug in what we've been saying about United, week after week after week. They can't control matches. The press sucks. They're going to play this match in transition. So for a Coventry team that is on a good finishing run, that can play in transition with pace, they can definitely exploit United many times. And I think you're right. If you wanted 0-on-1 bet, I think the team total is definitely the way to go for Coventry City. Because again, United definitely has enough attacking quality, and you saw that against Bournemouth. Even though they weren't that great, they have the attacking quality to put a couple goals past. So if you want to get crazy, Coventry City to win and both teams to score is about 9-1 right now. I think that's another good way to play this. But really any playing Coventry any possible way is definitely the way to go, because I mean, I went and projected it out, Anthony, using what I usually use for transitioning teams from the Championship to the Premier League, and I have United at like minus 180. So they're closer to minus 230 right now. They're just way overvalued against a Coventry team that could be going to the FA Cup final and finding themselves a spot in European football.
Well, it's going to be a little tougher to take.
It'll be tough, but they have a chance.
Take out Man City or Chelsea in the final. So that's a bigger hurdle. Although Chelsea love an upset loss, so you never know. But when you look at this, so some fun ideas. Both teams to score and double chance on Coventry, right around 3-1. That's intriguing. Both teams to score over 2.5. Everybody's favorite bet, 2.5, minus 110. So some interesting ways to play that one. I don't really want to play just like Coventry spread. That's kind of boring. I tend to want to chase more fun payouts in cups because they do tend to be higher variance, even in a semifinal. So Coventry over 1.5. Where's that coming in at these days?
Yeah, I was going to look at that. Hang on.
Coventry over 1.5 plus 225.
That's wonderful.
Over 2.5, 9-1. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have some.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at on this. We're just gonna keep fading this United defense into oblivion. It could get worse. It's hard to say. It's crazy to say that, but it could get worse because they are now kind of running out of defenders, and they're also at the same time running out of motivation. If they, whatever happens in this result, if they don't go through, even in the league, once they do, like it's all coming down to the cups really for them, and I guess their Europa League. But I kind of think Ten Hag is nearing lame duck status here. So
Yeah, he went, and we've talked about this, but obviously with new ownership coming in, he was essentially managing for his job, and right now he has sacrificed any type of tactical plan for results, and they've gotten some, and maybe if they get into the top 5, which is very unlikely at this point, holding on to top 6 would honestly be a win for them. He's probably gone, and they're probably going to go in a different direction. So, yeah, I don't see a scenario where he stays unless they pull off some type of magical run, which is not going to happen.
The funniest result, and one that I now think is like 40% to happen based on remaining schedules, is that Chelsea passes Man United in the table.
Oh, that's definitely live.
Yeah. They're 3 points behind with a game in hand. Granted, Chelsea's next handful of matches, they're going to play at Arsenal, at Villa. They're going to host Spurs. They still go to Brighton. So not exactly the easiest run-in for the Blues, but they're going to be live to do that and catch United, which would be the funniest scenario given how those two teams came into the season expectations-wise. Okay, let's go to the Premier League now. We talked about the title race. Arsenal lost to Villa. 2 straight matches, by the way. Arsenal didn't score. Should be noted.
It's true.
That's, I think, 5 now in all competitions where they have not scored. That is a lot for a team who is supposed to win this title. And now they get a Wolves team who is in a bit of a rough patch, but now, just in time, it's like clockwork. Cunha and Hwang Hee-chan return, and look who scored 2 goals last week, Wolves. It's never that simple, but it feels like with Palace and Wolves this year, they've been kind of relatively easy handicaps where it's like, what's their attack look like today? None of the good players are in. They're not going to score much. If Palace doesn't have Eze or Elise, they probably will need a miracle to score. And if they do have them, I made the joke last week, 2011 Barcelona, they've scored and beat Liverpool. So where are we on Arsenal? What's the temperature check? Should they roll here? I wanted 1.5 minus 110 to bet Wolves. It's minus 125, 130. It's a little juicy for me on Wolves, but I have this right around 1.25, 1.26 goals. So I don't really have a play here, although I'm clearly leaning toward Wolves because I think as these matches start to pile up, Arsenal fatigue with their main attackers, I find it convenient that Arsenal doesn't score against City. Then they have the mediocre showing against Bayern. They get blanked by Villa. Then they get blanked by Bayern here today. All that came right after Martinelli and Saka picked up little injuries, not operating at 100%. Like Martinelli missed some time. Saka missed a couple of games. The Luton game, they weren't very good. So Wolves are tempting to me with now their 2 of their 3 best attackers back in the lineup. I think they're worth maybe a money line shot, but from a spread perspective, I think it's about right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Arsenal is a tad overvalued comparatively to Wolves here. The one thing about Wolves that is interesting to me is every time I watch them, and it was very true against Nottingham Forest, is because of their out of possession structure, they often leave a lot of space in the middle of the pitch. And you saw that when Morgan Gibbs-White, obviously, Danilo ended up scoring the goal, but Morgan Gibbs-White created it through the middle of the pitch. Arsenal's obviously not a team that plays for the middle of the pitch, so that's a little concerning. And Wolves is very good at defending in those wide areas. But they leave that space in the middle, and then they're just incredible at blocking shots or blocking passes that actually come into the penalty area. Like we've said many times, Gary O'Neill's team is one of the best penalty box defending teams, honestly, in the world right now. That's why they've kind of overperformed at this point. And after the showing today against Bayern, it's really kind of hard to see how Arsenal is able to create all of these chances. And that kind of what leads me more towards an under here, which I know Hwang and Cunha are back. But even if you watch the Bayern match today, like Bayern wasn't that threatening as they were in the first leg. especially in transition. And that's basically how Wolves is going to have to get all their chances. And then you also couple that with the fact that Arsenal's kind of run a little bit cold on set pieces. Wolves is
Oh,
one of
really?
the
No, but no
teams run
way.
hot and teams run
No,
cold.
no way. At one point in the game today, they had 0 corners in like the 65th minute, and I was like, that's why Arsenal has done nothing. And then on 2 separate occasions, they didn't even get the corner off because they shoved the goalie, and they don't call it in the Premier League anymore, but they call it in Europe, and it got called. And I was like laughing, but also sad because I'm like, shit, I have to root for Arsenal here. I have money on them. But who could have seen that coming? That Arsenal's set piece luck would regress a little bit. Their dominance would regress, not luck necessarily, but
they just didn't get as many chances that they needed to create those chances. But what I will say is Wolves is one of the best set piece defenses in the Premier League. So that kind of leads me to under 3 here. I do project. I'm projecting this match right at about 2.9. So kind of right around 3 there. But given the scenario that we're in, how Wolves is going to play, I think this is generally a spot if you want to back an under. I mean, I have a hard time seeing how this gets to 4. So if I had to do anything in this match, it'll probably just be under 3 at minus 110.
Yeah, you know how I feel about Arsenal unders. Bet a lot of them this year, but I think there's something to the attack being a little bit worse right now, just given the minutes played, the injuries, and then like Trossard is such a great super sub, but every time Nketiah comes off the bench, I don't ever think he actually does anything. Like you watch him and he just kind of, because he's always the extra attacker, usually when they need a guy, and it never really works right. And he's not as good in transition as he is in like settled possession, and usually they're playing from the lead. So it's like a weird thing with Nketiah, where he's not as valuable as a sub. Trossard obviously scores a goal every match whenever I bet against Arsenal, but I'm leaning towards Wolves. See if the market moves a little bit, hop in. Don't disagree on the under.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's what I will say. Encouragement of Arsenal is like Wolves will give up chances. Like they're not like this impenetrable low block that nobody can actually defend. Like they have and consistently have gave up a lot of big chances this year.
Yeah, the defense was never actually good. They ran good for a little while, but
right, they ran good.
Never actually looked real.
So Arsenal will have their chances in this match. Just can they actually put them away or create a big one is kind of the question mark.
Yeah, now they're going to score twice on set pieces. Now that I've slandered them. All right, Fulham Liverpool Sunday 11:30. Big one here, of course. Liverpool, as much as Arsenal's only 2 points back, Liverpool, they're in Atalanta in Bergamo on Thursday, down 3 goals. We'll be fascinated to see what that match looks like because, there's a world where Liverpool has to go all in on Thursday if they make this close to try to turn this tie. And, maybe they have to play an extra 30 if they win by 3 goals. I hope not, but then they have the quick, turnaround to Sunday, another away match. And that's the thing, right? The second straight away match, traveling to Italy, coming back, then going to London. It's a lot of travel. And I think it's a good spot to go against Liverpool. I like Fulham +1. Fulham in the first meeting lost 4-3, but I actually thought they did a really nice job of keeping Liverpool from dominating that match. There were so many possessions in that, and this was fully healthy Liverpool back in December. There were so many possessions in that match where Liverpool could not break through into the penalty area. And I think it was the game when Anthony Robinson had 17 tackles plus interceptions. It was like a record for the Premier League. Yes, Fulham's defensive numbers are pretty flawed, and Liverpool can score for sure at will here. But I think Liverpool's legs are a concern. Second straight away match is a concern. And, I just don't really trust their defense away from home. And that's been a common theme all year. And I've said that I thought their road form was going to cost them the league title, and it ended up being the loss to Crystal Palace. But at home, but they're now entering a stretch here. Not just Liverpool has to go to Atalanta and Fulham, but they're going to go to Everton next weekend. 4 straight away matches in all competitions for Liverpool. Not good when you consider they're giving up about 1.5 expected goals per match away from home. We even saw them fumble against United. So this upcoming stretch here, Everton, West Ham, Fulham, and then they're going to go to Villa still. Like, it's a really difficult away schedule. And I think that's, why I'm skeptical of Liverpool and think there's going to be value going against them in these away matches.
I totally agree. What else is different? You pointed out that 3-4 match where Liverpool needed 2 goals in the last 5 or 6 minutes to actually win that match. Fulham is not only a team that can play a low, good defensive block, but if they need to, they can come out and they can press you. That's what they've been doing to some of these teams lately. And the offensive performances have really improved because they've gone more towards the way of where the rest of the Premier League is going, which is high intensity pressing, more back and forth type matches. But they've been really good in these type of back and forth matches. They have a striker now who they didn't have. Well, they had him, but they didn't play him. The last time they faced Liverpool, Muniz has been incredible. Like, he's getting over 4 shots per 90. Like, he's scored 8 goals already. Like, he is a valuable threat in transition that can really exploit Liverpool. The other thing about Liverpool is Trent Alexander-Arnold's back for them, which is generally a good thing, right, for them in possession. But out of possession, it's actually more of a, I wouldn't say, more of a hindrance to them because of the way they want to play him. They want him to invert. They want him to be their main passer out of the midfield, and he's generally good at that. But when he inverts, he leaves space. And Konate has been very good at cleaning that stuff up. But again, this is a Fulham team that can really exploit you on the wide areas. So, and a team that still is putting in a ton of crosses. So, and
they're good at crossing. Every goal
they're very good at crossing. Yes.
Yeah.
And if you saw against Atalanta, I mean, the way that Liverpool gave a lot of chances is they just struggled defending in wide areas. Yep. Same thing happened on the goal against Crystal Palace this past weekend, is that when they were tracking back in transition, it didn't close people down out wide. They lost Eze going into the box, and it was an easy tap-in goal. Like, Fulham can replicate that type of stuff very easily. Like, this is kind of just simple stuff. So they are definitely live here, not only to win, because they've obviously played way better at home than they have on the road. So I'm with you. Fulham +1.
Yeah, Iwobi's the guy for me. That late run stuff, he's been so good with that this year. And really, when Fulham went through their stretch where they just could not score, it was when Muniz was out and Iwobi was out, and they had Raul like in and out of the lineup, and it was Carlos Vinicius. Like, they had that really bad stretch in January, February, after their big winning run. That was their worst stretch of the season. Fulham's as healthy as they've been all year. And with Iwobi making those late penalty rocks runs that Liverpool have struggled to cope with, I think that's an angle. What's Iwobi to score?
Iwobi is it looks like it's gonna. Alex Iwobi is 6-1 to score in this match.
I'm gonna have a couple bucks on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the player that makes the late box run.
And I'll be on Muniz, who is closer to 3-1.
Yeah, you bet Muniz every week. I don't know.
I do.
You're buying high on Rodrigo. Although,
I mean, he's like 3-1 now.
He's a good player. Maybe we'll see. I'm still a little need to see it for more than like 2 months for him. Because most of his time in the Prem was bad. So Fulham +1 for me. That's the only title race fixtures. And with that, as we transition into the second half of the show, reminder that Wonder Goal is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. They boost specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out these boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, and North Carolina, or 18 or older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Second half of the Prem slate, there's a couple really ugly ones this weekend, down at the bottom of the table. Starting with Luton Town.
This is an important one, though.
And Brentford. It is an important one, because a win for our Bees would pretty much put the race to bed for them as far as their title or relegation concerns are currently constructed. At the bottom of the table right now, Brentford 32, Everton 27, Nottingham Forest 26, Luton 25, Burnley 20, and Sheffield 16. If you're looking at the relegation odds, since we're kind of going into this relegation section, Burnley minus 2,500, Luton minus 188, Nottingham Forest plus 225, Everton down to 4-1, Brentford 100-1, Palace 200-1. So those two are pretty safe. Brentford's probably safe either way. just given how bad those teams are at the bottom and how few points we expect them to take. Brentford can really basically confirm it with a win this week against Luton, would put them 10 points clear with 5 matches to go. Brentford's a plus 115 road dog. BJ, your favorite bet of the year, probably your most profitable wager. Are we back?
Yep, over 3 minus 110. This all comes down to how Luton Town's going to play, right? Like they have been playing aggressively, then they've kind of switched back to being more passive, out of possession, playing lower blocks, like you saw that against Arsenal and for times against City. Now that they get to play a team that's kind of near the bottom of the table with them, and a team that has a very clear weakness, which is Brentford's defending in transition, I think they have to go for this, right? Like, I don't know if a point is good enough for them to help them get out of the relegation. So, and unfortunately for Luton Town, they might not have any center backs available to play in this match. They didn't have any available against City. All of them were injured. Issa Kabore, who's by nature a right back, who's been forced to play in a back three, couldn't play against his parent club. So it was a very dire situation for them. It looks like Mengi might be back for them. Like he's the only one that's questionable. Otherwise, every other center back is out. So does Luton Town play in a low defensive block and just kind of try to delay the inevitable? Or do they come out, go man-to-man, press Brentford, try to force some high turnovers, where we have seen Brentford when they've been the ones that, you know, want to possess the ball and everything like that. They have been a little shaky in possession in terms of building up. They can definitely turn the ball over high. And for Brentford defensively, not only have they been bad in transition, but what's really hurt them this season is that their best two fullbacks have just been injured. For Enrico Henry and Aaron Hickey have been out for the entire season, and they've been on backups for essentially the whole season. They're 19th in defending crosses into the penalty area. How does Luton Town create all of their chances from open play? It's crosses. That's it. That's all they do. So I generally think we're going to see a very back and forth type match. I am projecting value on the Bees here. I really don't trust them, though, with how bad their transition defense is. They sat Ivan Toney against Sheffield. I know they only created one expected goal, but they started Neil Maupay, and it was kind of a lackluster showing. Sheffield played a low block and was pretty successful for large stretches of the match. But, I mean, is it crazy to say that Sheffield's low block is better than Luton's at this juncture?
Yeah, they're better.
It is. Yeah. I mean, because they were actually
the worst defense in the league.
Yeah, I mean, Luton is the worst. So
especially with the injuries.
With the injuries as well. So because of those injuries, I don't think Luton Town has a choice of what they have to do here. Yep. So which is going to end up being a very back and forth type match. And Luton Town's pretty average at defending set pieces too, which is always a problem against Brentford. So over 3 minus 110, projected 3.8 goals. If you want to take some Brentford team total, I think that's fine too. But yeah, or any juncture, you know, over 2.5, both teams to score. I generally think this is going to be a very back and forth type match.
I agree. Brentford team total over for me. Don't really trust Luton's attack enough. Think that they've gotten just about everything they can possibly get out of that attack, and so I'm a little skeptical to back it at this point with these prices we're getting. But I do believe that the bottom has fallen out on this defense, and the way they're playing to squeeze everything out of the attack is leaving so much space. And Brentford, I mean, it's crazy to say, but like Brentford as a road favorite is going to be the team with space in behind to operate. And so, like, I just think that they torch them, and it's like a 2-1, 2-2 kind of game. I agree with your over as well. Of course, obviously correlated. Next game, neither of us have anything here. Sheffield United versus Burnley. Must win. I mean, I think draw swings both teams. So this is a game where, like, live, you almost want to, you know, think about that as we get toward the second half here. Live overs if it's tied, live money lines if it's tied late. Either side, you can't really bet no draw live. Usually, you could. I mean, there are markets where you can bet double chance usually live. So maybe if you see like a double chance, one team to win or the other, the game to not end in a draw, it's worth a shot because this is the kind of game. It may start slow, but in that second half, things can get really crazy.
Yeah, I think I actually have something here.
I don't agree with Burnley being a full road favorite. I just
No,
think
it's I don't either. I think
they're like a slight road favorite. It's like a tenth of a goal.
yeah.
I have this Sheffield by like 0.02. So I guess
Mhm.
there's value on Sheffield United, but like no thanks on that front.
I actually
total I will not touch just because game state is so important.
It is.
If it's 1-0, then it's more interesting to say that team could try to hold them out, and I don't really trust either attack against a lower block. But the minute this game is tied again, both teams cannot do the draw. So this is an easy pass for me. I'm excited to watch this at late. Like I'll put it on in the second half if it's close. It'll second screen. I think this is the same time as the Luton Brentford match, so might even get main screen second half for me on Saturday. But I am not interested in betting this.
I have a shot prop for this one. Sheffield under 13.5 shots in this match. Because I project 10 for this. If you want to see my shot props, you can go to the Action Network Discord. I'll post them before the weekend slate. The previous match got a little off the rails and Burnley won at 5-0 because Sheffield did get a red card at halftime. But what we know about Burnley is they can go back to their old championship roots here. They can build out of the back. They can possess the ball. And I wouldn't be surprised if they controlled 60, 65% possession in this match and just try to pin Sheffield in. And Sheffield, I generally believe that their only chances in this match are going to come in transitional moments. Even in the previous meeting, before the red card happened at halftime, Sheffield had only taken 3 shots. And if you watch their match against Brentford, where they only took 8 shots, all of their chances just were from transitioning from a low block and trying to score that way. Yes, they have to play more aggressive. Yes, they have to go for this because they need 3 points. But generally saying that from the jump, when a team is going to control a lot of possession, you generally think that, yes, they're going to do that. But as we get more towards the second half, like you said, then the aggression comes in. Then they start to go for it. And if they don't have many shots to get there and to begin with, I have a hard time seeing how they're going to get 14 shots. They're only averaging 8.8 shots per 90. Sheffield is this season. So I get that Burnley's bad defensively, but Burnley's going to control a lot of this match. So Sheffield might get a couple goals on some transition moments. And even if Sheffield goes ahead, it's not like they're going to stay aggressive. Like they're just going to sit in their low block. So I think 13.5 is high on shots. So I like Sheffield under 13.5 shots.
All right. Shifting to Sunday, 4 matches actually. One we already discussed. So Everton, Nottingham Forest. If you follow me in the app, then my first pass through this slate, there was one side that immediately jumped out to me. I took some Forest plus a half even money and plus 320. Now the market has come down on both because on Monday, after this bet that I made, Everton got beat 6-0. Now, there were some real alarm bells. I know the XG was closer. There were some real alarm bells for Everton defensively, how easy it was to get up the wing on them. Chelsea's pace really caused a lot of problems. Pickford was awful. Really probably could have saved the 1 goal and then was obviously at fault for the Palmer second. I didn't watch the second half. I don't know what happened. I was on my couch ready to watch the match.
I quit.
You know what? It's a beautiful day. I'm going to go to the park. I'm going to go for a walk and listen to a podcast. I'm not going to watch the second half of a match that's already 3-4-0. My bet was dead under 3. Your bet, I think you bet Everton.
I did bet Everton.
We did Everton. Somebody messaged us because we had a great Saturday, and somebody said, it's days like these that, I'll keep betting Everton. Well, I'm betting against Everton. Yeah, I'm betting against Everton. I think Forest has really turned a corner. Their metrics continue to trend up. I think they're like the 11th best team in the league, and I think Everton, on current form now, a lot of weight you have to put into the first half of the season to say Everton is better than Nottingham Forest. Yeah. I think at worst it's a coin flip, and that's with the way the trend lines are going. I don't know that there's value anymore in like laying minus 120, 125 on the plus a half, but we're going to talk about Forest in a little bit as a little teaser as to who I might have in a certain parlay that never wins.
No, sometime once.
We'll hit 2 out of this. This feels like a 2 out of 3 week.
Yeah, definitely.
3 teams.
Yeah, this is a pass for me. I've steered away from the betting Everton as a home favorite and needing to win type of thing, just because, yeah, Monday's performance was bad. But again, I will say, if Beto doesn't miss that tap in right at the beginning, it's a very different game, right? I say that, but then it's like,
Yeah, it would have
okay,
been 6-1.
yeah, it could have been 6-1. That's right. Well, it changes the complexion of things. But yeah, just like I tweeted it.
0.96 XG miss from Beto.
I mean, yeah, it was a 0.9. Like I tweeted after 3-0 because the XG was like 1.4 to 1.1. I was like, it's a perfect Everton match. It's just like they miss a huge chance. The other team scores on some low quality ones. Pickford was terrible. Not encouraging for the Euros. I'll say that if Pickford's in bad form for England. But yeah, this is a pass for me. I generally agree with you that Nottingham Forest has really improved. I think playing Morgan Gibbs-White as more of a central role has really helped them and elevated them.
Yep.
Reina getting on, he was okay against Wolves. Danilo has been a really pacey winger that has helped them out quite a bit. They didn't really have before. And Chris Wood is just Chris Wood. So, but it always has to worry you, Anthony, how bad Nottingham Forest is on set pieces against this Everton set piece offense. So if this bet loses, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be because of that. So that is why I'm passing.
Your three favorite teams are all set piece merchants: Luton, Everton, and Arsenal. Merchants. I prefer teams who can create real chances.
It's part of the game.
Like Nottingham Forest, and they're 1.27 XG per 90 this season.
It's part of the game.
Of course, yeah. I just Forest gave up another one on the set piece last week.
They did. Funny. And it could happen. It could very easily happen here. So if Book ever offers the bet, and I really wish they would, of just a team to score off of a corner, I would bet Everton here, but they won't offer that. So I'm passing.
What's the way to go at it? We take some Jared Branthwaite anytime.
Well, if Michael won this podcast, he'd tell you Jared Branthwaite like 35-1 first goal scorer.
Inside baseball stuff here at Action Network, we have a Slack channel called Groupers. Leboff probably has more contributions than anybody in the history of the company, if you could imagine why. We tend to focus on absurd long shot bets. Not always, it could be anything, but they usually don't win. Sometimes
they're not supposed to win.
They're not supposed to win. Yeah, they're supposed to lose in painful fashion. So he sent Jared Branthwaite 45-1 at like 2:00 on Monday, and I considered betting it, and I said, you know what? There's zero chance I'm not doing it. So I did not. Leboff lost. He's not here to defend himself, but he'll tell you it was a great bet. All right, next one. Palace is a plus 115 home favorite against West Ham United. Imagine. I love this because the people who think West Ham is good, they need to recoup their money because they bet them as a measly home favorite against Fulham. They lost. And now, Paquetá probably plays because he's not eligible for Thursday's Europa League. So I'd imagine Paquetá plays. Bowen probably not fully fit for Thursday, but he might even play Sunday. With that being said, Palace, fresh off their biggest win of the season, have Eze and Olise fit. And Glasner, this is the first time Glasner has had both of them. And it was really interesting. He played them both centrally. And then the overlapping runs, Tariq Mitchell, like really successful up the one wing. Like it was a very functional attack that really should have scored more than one. I know their defense gave up like 4 XG to Liverpool, and Liverpool missed a ton of chances. But Palace should have had 2 in that game. They fully deserved more than what they got. And I think that their attack is really as upside as they're fully fit right now. So it would actually be Palace or nothing for me. But this number, I could not be more in line with the market. It's frustrating because I thought we'd get like plus 140 and I'd bet Palace, but plus 115, like, no thanks. Pass.
Yep, I agree. Pass. Right in line with the market as well. Palace at plus 137, total at 2.7. Palace team total at right at 1.5. That, it's minus 110 both ways on that. I have Palace projected at 13.5 shots, and that's what they're projected. That's what their line is. So just way in line with the market. Still would like to see more of Glasner with Olise and Eze here. I think this is a really good match to watch for what Crystal Palace could be next season if everybody stays, which is probably not the reality. But what they could be against some teams in the lower half of the table that play low blocks, and if they'd actually be a bettable favorite at those. We'll see if we ever get to that point, but it's a good litmus test for them.
All right, last game in the Prem. We're both in agreement. Villa's hosting Bournemouth. Villa play Lille on Thursday in the Conference League. Then they're going to host Bournemouth. I want to play against this Villa defense. I don't really trust Bournemouth's defense with a fully healthy Villa playing on the break too. I think this game could be really fun, open end to end. But I like Bournemouth team total over first half plus 105, team total over full game plus 140. You're also on Bournemouth, BJ.
Yes, Bournemouth plus a half, plus 120, and Bournemouth team total. Either way you want to play it, it's up to you. The first meeting, I believe this is one of the few times we went against each other. I believe, and I think you had Bournemouth plus a half at home, and I had Villa. That's back when Bournemouth, I think, just came off their big win against Newcastle and were starting to trend the right way, and I was dead wrong, and it ended up being a draw. But I went back and watched the highlights from that match, and what Bournemouth did, and what I believe they can do here, is be really effective with their high press. They stole a goal off of it in the previous meeting, and what was interesting about Villa's build-up structure against Arsenal, because Bournemouth do play a pretty similar type of hybrid high press that Arsenal does, where the general consensus is, if you have a hybrid high press, what that means is like partly it's man-to-man and partly it's zonal, right? So for Arsenal's case, they concede the space in the central part of the pitch with essentially passes over the top because they believe that Saliba and Gabriel are good enough at getting forward and winning those balls. Whereas Bournemouth is kind of similar, except they leave spaces out wide. It's like to push teams from one side of the pitch and then force those teams to play a long switch play pass, and they believe that they can be fast enough to recover that amount of ground. Aston Villa was dropping a lot of guys deep in build-up against Arsenal, like trying to get numerical advantages. And they really struggled in the first half. And it really wasn't our good friend John McKenzie, who hopefully we'll get on this podcast someday, pointed out that they didn't really change what they did in the second half against Arsenal. They just executed better, right? They were trying to find these three-man triangles on each side of the pitch, and Emery just said, hey, stick with the plan, like it'll work. And it did, and partly maybe because they, Arsenal wore down a little bit, obviously maybe a little tired. Press just wasn't as effective. But I tell you what, if Arsenal could convert some of the chances they had in the first half against Villa, it could have been a very, very different story. And that's what can happen here against Bournemouth, because Bournemouth has been really good at getting those chances and finishing them off of these high turnovers. So, and even if you go from the beginning of February, Bournemouth is about a plus a half XG differential per 90. Villa is at minus 0.15. The underlying numbers have been significantly better for Bournemouth. So I think Villa is a little overvalued here. I have them projected at plus 109. So anything plus a half, plus 110 or better is good enough for me. Projected them for 1.6 goals as well. So maybe I'll steer more towards the team total than plus a half, and join you.
All right, that'll do it for the Premier League. We are going to have a midweek episode where we talk through the six in the midweek as well. So more to come. Fixtures are coming fast. Bundesliga, relegation 6-pointer. Cologne, Darmstadt, BJ. What a match.
What
so much excitement for this one.
A match. This is where we're getting close to the time. It's one of our favorite times of the soccer calendar, where these relegation teams that need to win playing against teams that have nothing to play for get significantly overvalued. That's what's happened here. Cologne still has an outside shot of getting into the relegation playoff, although I think we both believe that Mainz is a significantly better team and will be fine, and Cologne is eventually going to get relegated. But they're minus 220 at home against Darmstadt, and I get Darmstadt's dead. They're not going to stave off relegation. They're already going to the second division. But Cologne has won the expected goals battle in 4 matches this season. 2 of them, they've been playing up a man for a majority of the match. One was against Darmstadt. It was 1.5 to 0.7. And the other one came against Bochum, where they got 2 late goals to win 2-1. So there really hasn't been a significant performance since they fired the manager in the midway point through the season. And if you look through Darmstadt, there have been some encouraging matches. Their last one against Freiburg was pretty decent. So I just think this is crazy. Like for this bad of a team to be laying minus 220, it's like Darmstadt +1. And they'll probably lose by multiple goals. But again, this is a crazy line. And maybe I like Darmstadt enough to put them in our underdog parlay. Might have to tune in later.
There are some glaring red signs hanging over Augsburg right now. A few teams have run better. They've had good red card luck. Last week against Union, they did not manage a shot in the first half. Union dominated, and then Union played a back pass right to the Augsburg striker, who didn't miss from one-on-one, and then everything changes. They win at home, but I think they're a walking fraud, and I think they're overvalued against Eintracht Frankfurt, who has better underlying numbers, especially in the last couple months. So Frankfurt plus money at home on Friday afternoon. I'm going to fade Augsburg on Friday again and see if I can have better luck this week, because their defense has real holes that I think Frankfurt can exploit at home, where they did pretty good this year. All right, we got two huge matches in Europe, non-England matches this weekend. Huge is a relative term, but we're going to start with El Clasico, who could decide the title race and whether or not we have a title race. So the current situation, Girona has faded.
Shot what?
They're now five. Yeah, they're now five.
They faded?
Behind. Yeah. Lost to Atleti pretty comfortably last weekend. They are now playing. They're 5 points behind. Barca is 8 points back with 7 to play. They have to win this to have a chance. Now, the problem is, even if they win this, Real Madrid's remaining fixtures at Sociedad, that's tough. But then Cadiz, Granada, Alaves, Villarreal, Real Betis. So it's tough to see them dropping like more than 5 points for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And Barca would have to run the table pretty much to have a chance. I don't really see it. But they're still going to play this match. And if you watch Barcelona, their last 2 matches, even against Cadiz, like their defense is still awful. They have no ball winners. They're going to let Real run in transition. Barca's still got great attackers. They're going to score. I like over 3. Usually we get 2.5, 2.75. I'm fine with 3. I have this closer to 3.5. I'm so down on this Barca defense when they play good competition right now. There is 0 ball stopping. There were so many sequences, even before the Araujo red card, where PSG had odd man rushes going at Barca's back line. The moves didn't quite come off. But in the first matchup, 40 touches for PSG in the Barca penalty area. 40. That is insane. That is the most PSG has had in any Champions League match that was 11-on-11 in 2+ years. And they played some pretty bad teams in the time period. So it just domination from PSG, and it kind of gets at the point. So I like over 3 here. I think both teams score. I think this is like a 2-2, 3-2 kind of game.
Well, wonderful for me to follow that up. That I'd say that I like Barca +1 at -135. Yes, I agree that they have no ball stopping in this midfield, but I do think Barcelona is a much better team when they have Pedri, De Jong all available, because they can actually build up. And Real Madrid, they're not a team like PSG. Like, they won't press high, they won't try to force high turnovers. They'll be more passive. They weren't good in a low defensive block against City, but they were at least somewhat competent. And it kind of hits home the point that Barcelona have all of these great attackers that can exploit Real Madrid, even if they play very passively. And yes, they don't have a lot of ball stopping in the middle of the pitch, but where Real Madrid actually wins the ball is going to be lower on instead of the pitch, and give Barcelona a better chance to defend in transition. And Barcelona, Araujo and Kubarasi, since they've kind of become the center back pairing, they actually have improved quite a bit, only allowing 0.83 XG per 90 minutes since those two have become the center back pairing. So it's been a little bit better. You got to remember, Barcelona's gone through a lot of injuries this season, but it is what it is. But you can look overall for the season, like Barcelona does have better underlying metrics than Real Madrid. I'm not saying that's like the reason that I'm making this bet, because I do believe Real Madrid is a better team, but I generally believe, especially given the spot where Real Madrid just played 120 minutes in Manchester and then coming back having to play Barcelona, even though they are at home, it's not a great spot for them. So I like Barcelona +1. I think that Real Madrid is a little overvalued here at home.
Cannot wait to see what the market opens next season with Mbappe at Real Madrid for them to win La Liga. That'll be fascinating.
That'll be fun. We'll have to see who Barcelona's coach is going to be at that point,
exactly.
too.
Next match, it's big one, Milan derby. Inter against AC Milan. I have a bet here. I like Inter plus 115. Think that they are just so good in transition, and it has wrecked Milan in almost every meeting they've had for the last few years, including those Champions League matches. And Milan's defensive metrics have also fallen off a cliff. So as much as Pulisic's been a nice story this year, it's been really encouraging. Inter is a class above, and this is kind of it for Inter. I mean, the season's over for them. There's not a ton else to play for. So I think Inter kind of gets up for this match, closes out the title, which they can do with a win, or a win clinches the title for Inter. So this is it. They can do it against their rivals. A draw would not quite clinch it. I mean, it would essentially do though, but a win would officially clinch the title. So I think you get Inter's best effort, and I think they win this match, clinch the title, and make it another Scudetto.
Good for them.
No home field advantage also. It should be thrown in there. They're technically a road team, but like, okay, sure. Same stadium. And the last thing, you have something in Ligue 1 before we get into the parlay.
Yeah, a couple actually really important matches in Ligue 1 this weekend. Monaco and Brest are facing off against each other. Brest has a game in hand. They're only up by 1 point for the second place Champions League spot that doesn't have to go via the playoff route, so that's very important there. Le Havre and Metz are doing a relegation 6-pointer. So for those of you who have a Le Havre 8-1 relegation ticket, we need Metz there. But I like Marseille. They're on the road, and they're plus 130 against Toulouse. You know, Marseille is about 4 points off of a European spot here. And they are playing on Thursday at home against Benfica. But this Toulouse defense is quite bad. If you've watched them throughout Europe when they played Benfica, or even in Ligue 1 throughout most of the season when they've had to play good competition, they're really not that great when they have to sit in a low defensive block. And when the match gets stretched and they have to play more in transition, they have struggled. They're near the bottom in pretty much every single defensive metric. Marseille is a team that obviously has run very bad this season. They have a lot of great attackers who can hit you in transition. They've been effective at breaking down low blocks. And I think plus 130 is just too low of a price for a team that I know is playing on Thursday, and the market's kind of baking that in. But I don't think they've gone far enough. So I like Marseille plus 130.
All right, underdog parlay. Don't even know what happened last week. Bro, Brest, the worst beat of the year.
Yeah, that was the worst. Yeah, Brest plus a half was the worst beat of the year by far.
They were up 3-1 and then gave up a 107th minute penalty.
117th minute penalty.
Was it 117?
Yeah, 107th. You're right. No, you're right.
107th.
Sorry,
yeah.
You're right.
That one will go down in the history books. I was at the Phils game just like looking at my phone and laughing. Anyway, I'll start. Forest plus 270. This number's come down a little bit. Still my favorite dog on the board. I think Everton's continued struggles to create big chances have been a consistent problem. Now you're seeing the defense fall off a little bit. Attack still not consistent. Forest trending up. Everton trending down. I think is a high variance matchup. I like the Trees on the road plus 270.
I like Darmstadt plus 550. I mean, what better way to win this than backing a team that hasn't won a match since October? This is a way overvalued Cologne team that is the second worst team in the Bundesliga by far. You know, if you look at the underlying metrics for both these teams throughout the entire season, Cologne is around a -1 XG differential per 90, and Darmstadt is around -1.5. So, or excuse me, 1.15. So the gap between them is not that large. And even when they played the previous time, Cologne won, but the XG gap wasn't really that much. I mean, they created one chance, and that was about it. But it was a pretty dead match for the first 60 minutes. And yes, Darmstadt's dead. They're going to get relegated. But this is a crazy price considering how bad Cologne has been all season. Again, they've won the XG battle in 4 matches all season, and 2 of them, they were playing up a man for a majority of the match. So Darmstadt plus 550, and we have given Michael Coventry City at plus 450.
3-leg parlay comes out to 133-1. Running out of time if we're going to hit one this year. So maybe this is the one.
Well, we still got the Euros. We still got Copa America. We'll be all right.
True. All right, best bets. I'll start. Bournemouth, team total over a half, plus 105, and full game over 1.5, plus 145 against Aston Villa. Aston Villa's defense, bottom 5 in every meaningful metric, from XG allowed to big chances allowed in the last 3 months. It's been a defense that's steadily trended downward. They're in a tough spot given how many minutes their key players have to log to get through this Europa Conference League. They're on the road on Thursday in France as well, so then they come home. I think Bournemouth's attack will find success in wide areas and in behind, where they have been really good in transition this year. So I like the Cherries to score a couple times and hopefully cash our bets.
And I like Luton, Brentford, over 3 goals at -110. Bad times for Luton Town right now, who are in the relegation zone. They need points to get out of it. And they only, maybe at best, will have one center back available for this match. So that means that Rob Edwards is probably going to have his team play in a very aggressive approach out of possession, which is going to create a very back and forth type match. If they play in a low block, they're just going to delay the inevitable with the Brentford attack that has really improved now that Mbeumo's healthy, that Ivan Toney's back from his suspension. It's a Brentford attack that's really improved. They're really good in transition, so if this match gets going very back and forth, they're going to have a lot of chances at their end. But at the same token, Brentford's been bad defending in transition. They've had really struggled at defending crosses, and that's basically the only way that Luton Town creates their chances when they're from open play. So projected 3.8 goals for this match. So like over 3 at -110.
All right, that will do it for this episode of Wonder Goal. Thanks to BJ Cunningham. Thanks to Noah, our producer. We will be back Monday morning in your feed. We've got 6 Premier League matches. I think we've got some Italian Cup semifinals. Maybe we'll get into those, maybe not. Either way, we will be back Monday. We're entering the sprint, the final match weeks of the season. Can you believe that we are 1 month and 2 days until the final day of the Premier League season? It's been a fun ride, and thank you for joining us.